If you're building a website with Bluehost, you'll probably start on shared hosting. It's cheap, easy to set up, and it works great when your site is brand new. But at some point, a lot of people hit the same question. When should you upgrade to VPS hosting? Because on paper, VPS sounds better. More power, more control, faster performance. But it's also way more expensive, and the truth is a lot of websites upgrade way too early. So in this video, we're breaking down the real differences between Bluehost shared hosting and Bluehost VPS. When shared hosting is still perfectly fine, and the clear signs that it's time to upgrade. What's going on, everyone? My name is Eric Hunsaker, and on this channel, we help you build your first website and make smart decisions about the tools you're using. Let's start here with the basics. What shared hosting actually is. When you buy Bluehost shared hosting, you're essentially renting a small portion of a server that's shared with a bunch of other websites. The easiest way to think about it is like an apartment building. Everyone lives in the same building and shares the same overall infrastructure. The building has one water system, one electrical system, and shared hallways. Shared hosting works the same way. Your website lives on a server with many other websites, and all those sites share the same pool of resources, like CPU power, RAM storage, and bandwidth. The big advantage of this setup is price. Shared hosting is extremely affordable. Bluehost shared hosting plans usually start around a few dollars per month on promotional pricing, which makes it one of the easiest ways to launch a website without spending much money at all. And for a lot of people, especially beginners, shared hosting is more than enough. If you're running things like a blog, a portfolio website, a small business website, a landing page, or a brand new site with low traffic, shared hosting is typically going to work just fine. But there are some limitations, and those limitations are what eventually lead people to VPS hosting. What VPS hosting is. VPS stands for Virtual Private Server. Instead of sharing everything with other websites, a VPS creates a virtual partition on a server that's dedicated to you. Think of it like moving from an apartment into a townhouse. You're still part of a larger structure, but now you have your own dedicated space and resources. With Bluehost VPS hosting, your account gets guaranteed resources, such as dedicated RAM, dedicated CPU cores, dedicated storage, more server control. Because those resources are reserved specifically for your website, performance tends to be much more consistent. Even if other websites on the same physical server get busy, your site still has the resources allocated to it. That's the big difference. Shared hosting divides resources among everyone. VPS hosting gives you your own guaranteed slice of the server, but that extra power comes with a higher price tag. The cost difference. This is one of the biggest factors when deciding whether to upgrade. Bluehost shared hosting is extremely affordable, often starting around a few dollars per month, depending on promotions. VPS hosting, on the other hand, usually starts around $30 per month or more, depending on the plan and resources you choose. So the jump from shared hosting to VPS is not small. It can easily be 5 to 10 times more expensive. Because of that, upgrading only makes sense when your website actually needs the additional resources. And a lot of websites simply never reach that point. So let's talk about when shared hosting is still the right choice. When shared hosting is still the right choice. If your website is fairly simple and doesn't get huge amounts of traffic, shared hosting can handle it without any problems. This is especially true for sites like personal blogs, informational websites, small business pages, and portfolios. Even many WordPress sites run perfectly fine on shared hosting for years. If your website is getting somewhere in the range of a few thousand visitors per month, shared hosting usually performs well. And Bluehost handles a lot of the technical work behind the scenes, which means you don't need to worry about server management. That simplicity is actually one of the biggest benefits. You can focus on building your site, publishing content, or growing your business instead of worrying about server configuration. But as your website grows, you may eventually start seeing signs that shared hosting is reaching its limits. And that's when VPS starts to make more sense. Signs it's time to upgrade to VPS. There are a few very common signs that tell you it might be time to move beyond shared hosting. The first one is consistent slow performance. If your website starts loading slowly, especially during higher traffic periods, it may be because the shared server resources are being stretched too thin. The second sign is traffic growth. Once a site starts reaching tens of thousands of visitors per month, shared hosting can sometimes struggle to keep up with the demand. The third sign is running more complex websites or applications. For example, if you're running something like a WooCommerce store, a membership site, website, a learning platform, or a resource-heavy WordPress setup with many plugins, those types of sites often benefit from the dedicated resources that VPS provides. Another common sign is back-end performance. If your WordPress dashboard starts feeling slow, pages take longer to update, or certain plugins lag when saving settings, it may be a sign that your hosting environment needs more resources. Finally, some people upgrade simply because they need more control over the server environment. VPS hosting allows for deeper customization and more flexibility compared to shared hosting. That level of control can be useful for developers or more advanced users. Performance differences in the real world. In practical terms, the biggest difference that most people notice when switching to VPS hosting is performance consistency. Because shared hosting distributes resources among many websites, performance can fluctuate depending on what other sites on the server are doing. Most of the time, you won't notice it. But during busy times, your site could slow down if the server is under heavy load. With VPS hosting, your allocated resources stay reserved for your site. That typically means faster response times, smoother backend performance, and more stability when traffic increases. For websites that rely on speed, like e-commerce stores, that can make a noticeable difference. But again, this improvement is only meaningful if your site is actually pushing the limits of shared hosting. Who should definitely stay on shared hosting? If you're just starting your website, shared hosting is almost always the right move. It's affordable, simple to manage, and more than powerful enough for most new sites. You can focus on building your content, growing traffic, and figuring out what direction your website is going without paying for resources you don't need yet. In fact, many successful blogs and small businesses stay on shared hosting for years before ever needing to upgrade. So don't feel pressured to jump to VPS just because it sounds more powerful. In many cases, shared hosting is exactly what you should be using. Who should consider VPS? On the other hand, VPS hosting starts to make sense when your website becomes more demanding. If you're running a larger WordPress site, an online store, or a platform that relies heavily on plugins and dynamic content, the extra resources can help maintain smooth performance. Websites with rapid traffic growth can also benefit from VPS hosting because it offers more room to scale. And if you're someone who wants deep control over server configuration, VPS opens up more possibilities than shared hosting typically allows. The key is making the upgrade when it's actually needed, not just because it sounds like the next level. The bottom line, shared hosting and VPS hosting both have their place. Shared hosting is perfect for beginners, smaller websites, and projects that don't need huge amounts of server power. It's affordable, easy to manage, and capable of running a lot of websites successfully. VPS hosting is designed for websites that have outgrown those limitations. It offers more power, dedicated resources, and greater flexibility. But it also comes with a higher price tag. So the smartest approach is simple. Start with shared hosting, focus on building your website and growing your audience, and once your site reaches the point where performance, traffic, or complexity starts pushing the limits of shared hosting, that's when VPS becomes a logical upgrade. So if you want to check out Bluehost or see other plans that we talked about in this video, I've included links down in the description below. These are affiliate links, which means that we earn a small commission when you use them at no extra cost to you. And these commissions really help support the channel and allow us to continue to create free content just like this. So if you end up using them, we thank you so much in advance. And if you found this video helpful, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you never miss another video. Here on the channel, we make videos on how to create websites, explore different website builders, discuss domain names, and so much more, so be sure to subscribe. But other than that, thank you so much for watching. We'll see you here in the next video.